somewhere else. No. You think? I don't know. Someone else. Oh, that boy, I think that gentleman. Zax. He knew? I told Ari. I went there. Thank you for bringing the books. Thank you. You got the book? I just told you here. Thank you.
Goes to Ari. Ari's the one that, he's the one that.
Beautiful. Good morning, Rabbi Yosef. Yosef Hashem li ben Acher. So the Tzemach Tzedek says from Acher to make a ben. Good morning. Welcome everybody. Bruchim Abayim. Reb Moshe, we're good?
Yeah.
Hoidul Hashem ki tov ki le'elam chazdai. Okay. Good morning. Panam Chadash is Ba'olakan. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam she'akalni b'dvareh. From where? Borough Park. Wow. Okay. Because he traveled from Englewood. I came from J Court. Borough Park wins, yeah. Okay. Good morning. Thank you for bringing this for him. I thanked him already. Okay. Okay, so today we'll begin a new Maimer, Be'ezer Hashem. We were zeicha to finish the Maimer Chayei Sarah, Tovshin Yud Beis, about Simcha and humility and Sarah, Noach and Chava, the Bittul and the Murgish. So now we'll go to a new Maimer. It's always a continuation, yeah. When you're in flow, everything is a continuation, right? Everything. That's what the plumbers say. Very good. He's a plumber, so he knows about plumbing. Okay. B'chodesh Hashvi. Tiku, yeah. Yeah. Okay. So we'll do by Vayetze, the first Maimer of Vayetze. You see, Parshas Vayetze, Torah Parshas Vayetze, it's page 41. Page 41, Chaf Aleph. In the Hebrew, it's Chaf Aleph, column 1. The first Maimer of the Balatanya. Torah is from the Alter Rebbe, the Balatanya, from his Maimorim that he said on Shabbos or Yom Tov or other occasions. So this is the first Maimer on Vayetze. This Maimer also has a beer. The Alter Rebbe would often say a Maimer and then he would say a second Maimer to explain the first. So afterwards you'll see there's a beer, but we'll do the first one.
first mimer, you mean the first time-wise?
No, it's printed when the Tzemach Tzedek was the grandson of the Balatanya. When he published Torah Likutei Torah, so he took all the Maimarim and he organized them. He put them in different parshias. So this is the first one that he put into Vayetze.
They're not necessarily chronological.
No, they're not in chronological order, no. B'chlal not. Yeah. Okay, today's class is dedicated for a Shidduch Tov for Nechama Dina, Bas Chaya Tzivya, and for Menachem Mendel, Ben Chaya Tzivya. Beide zusammen ist bestammen nicht ausgehalten. But Amen, you should find a beautiful Shidduch, easy and smooth, and a binyan adayad among everybody who needs a Shidduch. Right? And those who have a Shidduch, to even enhance it. Begashmi is a beruchnes. And thank you very much. Okay, Vshavti b'shalom al beis avi, v'hoya havaya lila lekim, v'evan azay shesamti matzeva, yiyeh beis lekim. Ik heb me given the Chumash, the Bloya Chumash. So the Maimer begins with the Psukim. In Parshas Vayetze, everybody who knows the story, Yaakov leaves home. He's going to Charan. He goes to sleep. He encounters a certain place. The Torah doesn't say clearly which place it is. And he goes to sleep. He goes to sleep over there because the sun has set. And that's when he has the famous dream. The dream of the ladder, where the Malachim are going up and going down. And Hashem is standing over him. And in this dream, he hears all of the promises. Hashem says, this land I'm going to be giving you and your children. Your children are going to grow like the dust of the earth. They'll multiply like the dust of the earth. Your strength will extend throughout the whole world. Everybody will be blessed. All the nations of the world will be blessed by you and your children. And I'm going to be with you. And I'm going to protect you and guard you. And I'm going to bring you back to this land. And I'm never going to let you alone. I'm never going to abandon you until everything that I promised is going to be fulfilled. So this is an amazing dream that he has in a very vulnerable moment, right? He left home, he was alone, his brother was pursuing him, so this was a very vulnerable moment. And here he has this glorious dream. He wakes up, and he says, Hashem is here, and I didn't even know. Right? He's full of awe, and he says, wow, this is an amazing place. This is the house of Hashem. This is the gate of heaven. That's why Chazal say that this was Har HaMoriah. And then he wakes up in the morning. This was right when he woke up from the dream. And then when he wakes up in the morning, so the Torah says like this, he takes the stone that he placed by his head, because before he went to sleep, it says he took from the stones of the place and he placed them by his head to sleep there. And he takes this stone and he makes it into a matzeva. Matzeva is like a monument, like a matzeva. And he pours oil onto the stone, on the top of the stone. And then he names the place Beisel. It used to be called Luz, he names it Bethel. And then he makes a neder. What's the promise? The promise is, if Hashem is going to be with me, and he's going to protect me on this road, on this path, and he's going to give me bread and clothes, then that's the if. Then what's the promise? The promise is that's where the Maimer begins. And furthermore, Vshavti b'shalom, and I'm going to come back. I'm going to come back in peace to my father's home. And Hashem will be for me Elikim. So then, this stone that I made a matzeva, that I turned into a monument, should become a house of Hashem. And everything you give me, I'm going to give my aser, I'm going to tithe for charity. That's the end of the story. Then starts the next story, that Yaakov goes and he goes to the well, and that's where he meets Rachel, and then he goes to Lavan, and all of the continuation of the story. So that's the Alter Rebbe v'tzarich lahaven. Hashayches shel ha'even im shem havaya. What's the connection of this stone to the name of Hashem? In simple words, you could say, it's a strange promise. It's like you tell somebody, if you protect me my whole life, you give me health, you give me parnasa, you give me a beautiful home, you give me safety, you give me protection, and you add another few $1 million. So there's a rock in my garden. I'm going to take the rock, I'm going to pour oil on it, and I'm going to make it into a Beis Elikim. Okay, it seems a little disproportionate. The way the Alter Rebbe is asking it, what's the shaykhs is, if Havaya is going to be Lila Elikim, if Hashem is going to be my God, so you know what I'm going to do? The stone is going to become a Beis Elikim. Like, you're going to dedicate the stone, you'll write on it a Beis Elikim. What's the shaykhs? And like that's his whole, that's the biggest accomplishment. At the end, you could say, no, I'm going to give meiser from everything. Okay, I'm going to give taxes, I'm going to give charity. I understand. Yeah. But what's his vart? If everything happens, and he's making a lot of promises here, Hashem has to be my God, and he has to protect me, and he has to give me bread, and he has to give me clothes, and he has to bring me back to my father's home in peace. Wow, like all of this. And if he does this, and Hashem is going to be Lile Lakim, my personal God, then what's the highlight? What's the result? I'm going to take a stone, which I slept on, and I made it a matzeva, and this is going to become a Beis Lakim. What's the significance of that? And that's what he's going to do. Doesn't even say anything about himself. It's about a rock. Gam tzarich lahavin ki lashon ha'evan hazois to lashon ha'keva umilas yihi ulashon zacher. Pashtin diktuk. Evan is a feminine term. That's why it says ha'evan hazois, not ha'evan hazeh. Zois is feminine. Zeh is masculine. Zacher nekeva. So if ha'evan hazois or something matzeva needs to be tia beis halakim, not yiyah. Tia is feminine, Yiyah is masculine, Lashon Zachar. So this is Pashtin Diktuk. Milas Evan Hazais Lashon Nekeva. That's why it says Hazais. Umilas Yiyah Lashon Zachar. Ulahavin is Kalanal to understand all of this. So the first question was a thematic question. It was on the theme. The second question is Pashtin Diktuk. But it's every letter in Torah is Meduyuk. So for this we have to understand what it says earlier. What did it say earlier? The big story here is something about stones. Something about stones. Like that's the theme here. And it's a strange thing. He took a couple of stones to put around his head, Rashi says, as a protection. Or some say as a pillow. I mean, not such a comfortable pillow, but okay. He wanted to have his head elevated. He wanted his head protected. Okay. But like that, first of all, what's Negeya in this story? Like what's Negeya? I mean, he may have done other things before he went to sleep. What else did he do? Just say he went to sleep. This is the Nekuda. So if you think it's tam random, you're just saying he took a couple of stones. Suddenly you see that it's not random. Because that's the opening of the story. That when he comes to this place, he takes the stones and he places it by his head. And then, what does he do when he wakes up in the morning? Bite to the stone. He takes this stone that he put by his head and he makes it a matzeva, and now he pours oil on it. So this stone somehow is a very central theme of the story. And if you're still not sure that it's central, he makes a promise that if Hashem does everything for him, the stone is going to become a Beis Halakim. So Rabbi said you have to go back to the beginning. What's this whole inyan with the Avonim? V'tzarich lahavin inyan Avonim mahin. What's the inyan of the stones? In other words, I'll be pshat, fine. He took the stones, but why is this the story? What did he do? Was he wearing shoes? What did he do with his shoes? You're not going to say, whatever he did with his shoes, I don't know what he did with his shoes or with his sandals or whatever he was wearing. I don't know. Huh? Yeah. But this becomes the nekuda. Ma'inyan avon v'gam another diyuk masha yutchila avonim harbe. So another very interesting thing. In the beginning it says vayikach me'avnei hamakim. He took from the place, he took some of the stones to protect himself, to put by his head. When he wakes up, it says vayikach ha'even. Rashi already brings, was it avonim or even? In the beginning it says me'avnei, plural. At the end it says ha'even, which is singular. So Rashi famously says from the Medrash that initially there were many stones, and then somehow Yaakov transformed them into one stone. So you look at it, okay, interesting miracle. But what's the teichen? Stop. There's a famous color. You don't stake miracles for drama. And if the stones would have remained a few stones, what's the problem? What do you gain from having all the stones one? So the famous story is that they were in a fight. Rashi says that the stones got into a fight, yeah? Who gets the head of the tzaddik? This one wants the head, this one wants the head, this one wants the head. So Hashem turned them all into one stone, so now there's no fight anymore. Huh? Shalom al Yisrael. Shalom al Havanim. Yeah. But Hagufa, like what's the teichen? Like I once heard a joke from Rabbi, I think it was Rabbi Jonathan Sachs, Alav Shalom. He says, when Yaakov wakes up, he says, Ein Zakim Beis Halakim. This is a house of God, like this is a synagogue. How did he know? This is a place where even the stones get into a fight. He says, Ein Zakim Beis Halakim. This is a shul. This is a classic Beis Halakim, Even rocks can get into a fight. No, it's a classic rabbinic joke, but doesn't really belong to this maimer. But the nekuda here is, what's the teichen of this? What's the teichen? Obviously, you have stuff to know what means stones are fighting. What are they fighting about? And is this really the solution? Inyan here. So these are all the shilas of the Alter Rebbe, and now he starts the explanation. The first question is why, if Hashem is going to be his God and do all these things, the result is going to be that the stone is going to be a Beis Elokim. Apparently that's like the highest commitment he could make. And it seems like a small thing. Why? You'll turn the stone into a Beis Elokim. You're not even building a building. At least put up a building. You say, if God gives me everything, I'll put up a beautiful building. Fine. The Evan is going to be a Beis Elokim. Okay, what does that cost? And if the Evan is not a Beis Elokim, like, well, you're going to write Beis Elokim and people are going to come here and want to say a kapitel Tillim. Okay, beautiful. What's the shaykhs? Then there's the Evan Azois versus Yiyah, right? Evan Azois, something what's ever Yiyah. Evan Azois is Nekeva, Yiyah is Zachar. The third question is, what's the whole union of the stones? Like, that's the focus. He takes stones and then he takes the stone, he makes it a matzev and he pours oil and then he makes a neder about the stone. Like, why is that the main? It looks like that's the main focus of the story when it seems like a completely a side part of the story that's not very significant. And then the last question is, what's the idea that the stones first are plural and then they become one? Like, what's the significance of that? Of course, in the context of the story. So what Alter Rebbe is going to show in the Maimer, he's going to explain in the Maimer, that really this is the whole Nekuda. It's not stam, a story about stones. The stones represents the whole avoid of Yaakov. And as we're going to see, the whole avoid of a person. That's why it becomes such an important central theme. You got to go back even more to the beginning. Right? He started with the end of the story. So he says, go back earlier to the story, and now go back at the beginning of the story. Because that's always a klal. If you want to understand the last rung, you got to go to the first rung, right? Always, you got to go to the source. So you got to go to the beginning of the story. It says, Yaakov left Beersheva and he went to Haran. So on a literal level, you have Yaakov going to Haran. He leaves Beersheva and he goes to Haran. On a deeper level, Pnimius HaTorah, it's the Pnimius of the story. Pirush, Yaakov ubchinas Yud Ekev. The name Yaakov is made up of two words, Yud and Ekev. Yud is the letter Yud, and then Ekev is a heel, like the sole of the foot is called Ekev HaRegel, Akev HaRegel, right? Ekev Tishmon, Mitzvah Shadam Dash Ba'akavav. The Ekev is the sole of the foot, the bottom of the foot, which means you're talking about the Yud connected to Ekev. Also literally, why was Yaakov named Yaakov? Because Yadoi, Oichezes Ba'akev Esav. Yadoi is Yud. Yadoi, his hand is the same letters like Yud. Oichezes, it was holding the heel of Esav, grabbing it as Esav went out first because he was the oldest. Yaakov's hand, his little tiny baby hand, is grasping his brother's heel. So it's Yadoi, Oichezes Ba'akev Esav. So Yaakov. So why don't you call him Ekev? Because it's Yadoi, it's Yud Ekev. So it's not Stama, you understand? Yadoi is the letters Yud. Yud and Ekev, that is Yaakov. Because his hand, which is Yud, Yadoi, was holding the Ekev. That's on a physical level, that he was holding on to Esav's heel. Now the question is really that's the name you should give a child? At least if you're naming a child, name for something he did. This is all about his brother. Like, right? It's like, I was holding on to my brother's heel, so that's why my name is Yaakov. It's like, you're named for your brother's heel. Like it's a little bit of a difficult name. Your aunt? No, I'm saying I'll be pshat. It says Yad Echad. So Alter Rebbe is saying that the inyan here is Yud Ekev. What is it? So he says Rubchinas Hamshachas Chachmei La Shubchinas Yud Lamata Mata Gam Bebchinas Hakvaya. Yud, the letter Yud in Torah Sa'asoid, in Kabbalah and Chassidus represents Chachma. Yud is the smallest letter. It's a seminal point. So it represents Chachma, which is also considered the epiphany of an idea, the nekuda of an idea. It's the seminal point. Later, it's going to be expanded. That's bina, das. But in Chachma, it's always a seminal point, like a flash. You know, the light bulb moment. Aha. It's like an epiphany comes into your mind. It's like a first flash of wisdom, which is always condensed and very nekuda. So that's Yud. Spiritually speaking, it's called Chachma Elah, the highest Chachma, the supernal Chachma, which is Hashem's wisdom, which is the beginning, the genesis of consciousness, which is Chachma Elah. Like in a person, that's the genesis of consciousness. You have an idea, that's like the first, and then it's developed. So that's Yud, and this Yud was what? To bring it down, Lamata Mata Gam B'Bchinas Hakvaya. To take this Yud, and to be it mamshech, meaning to communicate it. It should flow lower and lower till the heel. V'zel vayetze Yaakov Beersheva vayelech Harana. Shebchinas Yaakov hu amamshech bebchinas Be'er Sheva. Shu lamayla mayla iyu v'chayoy v'garmoy echad ad ishtalshelus lamata mata lamadrega yesa tachtoina. So this is the idea. Yaakov comes from Be'er Sheva and he goes to Haran. Be'er Sheva, he's going to explain, is the well of seven. Be'er is a well. Sheva is 7. Why is it called Be'er Sheva? So we learned earlier, because there was a well and there was a treaty there and there was a shvuah there. There was an oath that was made between Avram and Avimelech and then Yitzchak and Avimelech. And because of that, it's called Be'er Sheva. There was an oath that this is Yitzchak's well. Or this, actually, the Seforno says Sheva is the number 7, because this was the 7th well that he found. Spiritually, Be'er Sheva means the well of the 7, which means, as he's going to explain later, the well from which all the 7 midos come out. The Be'er from which you draw water for all the 7. So Yaakov takes the Be'er Sheva, which is Lamayla, it's up, way up there. I'm just reading the words again. This is an expression of the Zohar. Hashem and his Iris are one, and his Kalim are one. Chayohi are his lights, Garmoyi are his Kalim, his garments. The word garments, I think, is connected to Garmoyi. So in the space where he and his lights and vessels are completely one, meaning there's complete integration with the divine, that's Be'er Sheva, the source of the 7. And he brings that down, all the way down, Lamata Mata, Shobchinis Charan, which is Charan. Kashayavu Lekaman Be'ezer Hashem. As will be explained later in the Maimer, what this means. What does it mean? Be'er Sheva all the way into Charan. But that's the Nekudah, that Yaakov, because he is Yud Ekev, so he could combine the two, and he could bring the Yud all the way down into the heel, and that's why he could leave Be'er Sheva and bring Be'er Sheva into Charan. So in addition to the physical, geographical story, there's also a spiritual story. This is the deeper meaning of the pasuk. Tzave Yeshuas Yaakov. So what's Tzave Yeshuas Yaakov? On a deeper level, it means Yeshua is Shin Ayin Ahayin Eloi. Yeshua is the source of the word is Shah Vayisha Hashem, turning to somebody. Yeshua is a salvation. So it says in Kabbalah there's 370 higher lights. The word Save from the word mitzvah means connection. So Yaakov is the one who could take Yeshua's Shin Ayin, the 370 lights, and bring it down all the way to Ekev, all the way to the soul. Tzave, Yeshua's Yaakov, it's Yaakov. The ability to be mitzvah, to connect Yeshua's into Akvayim. The same idea of Be'er Sheva Techar. V'gam Yeshua Similoshin Sha'a, K'moshe Kasav, Vayisha Hashem El Hevel V'Minchaseh. The word Yeshua is connected to the word Sha'a, like turning to somebody. Right? It says Hashem turned to Hevel and his offering, not the Kayin. Vayisha Hashem, Keli Shah, turning to you, which is the idea. So this is the idea that the light is coming down even to the lowest place. Vayisha, Yeshua is, I'm turning to you. I'm transmitting an energy to you. And Yaakov is the one who can accomplish that all the way down. Vayosha Hashem over there, it's salvation. At Geholfen, he helped them. He brings from Bereshis, Vayisha Hashem El Hevel, he turned to him. Yeah. Vel Sfilosim She'eh, yeah. Turn to their tefillah. So it's like it's a directional energy. Like turn to them. Right? Connect to them. So that's Tzave Yeshuas Yaakov. But as the light of Hashem comes down, evolves with so many restrictions and filters, until it comes down into Charan, it becomes a fragmented world. When you're bringing down the light so low, and it goes through so many stages of concealments, it comes into Alma de Pruda, Legamri. What's Legamri? A completely fragmented world, which means a world in which there's no awareness of the source, and therefore there's no cohesion, there's no oneness. Pruda is from the word pirud. It's completely fragmented, separate, in its own consciousness. What? Yeah, too many restrictions. Not too many, but just many, and that's what it does. That's part of the plan. It says in Bereshis, Hashem took Adam and Chava, put them in the garden. There was a Nahar, a river that comes out of Eden, and it irrigates the garden. Lahashkas Sagan, it irrigates Gan Eden. And from there, the river splits into 4 Larbar Roshim, 4 heads. Right? One river becomes Pishain, which is the Nile River. One river becomes Gichain. One river becomes Chidekel, which is the Tigris River. And the 4th one is Euphrates, Pras. Anar Arvihu Pras. So it splits into these rivers, which comes from the one river that comes from Eden. What does this mean? Eden, that's the Yud. It's not the Garden of Eden, it's the source of Gan Eden. It's Eden, that's Chachmelah. the highest Chachma. Lahashkas Sagan. And there's a flow, a river that flows from Eden, from Chachma, to bring water to the garden. But Umisham Yipared. You hear the taich, but from there it splits. In Gan Eden, it's still one river flowing from Eden. Umisham, but over there Yipared. There's an inyan of Pirud, separation, fragmentation. V'hayalar bar Rashim comes into 4 outlets, and they become 4 different rivers. Right. At the end, at the end of Gan Eden. What's pshat? When it comes from there, but it comes through many ishtalshalus, many rungs, many stages of evolution, and many tzimtzum, many restrictions and concealments and filters. What happens? These very rivers become yipare, they become nifradim, they become fragmented. What does it mean fragmented? They don't feel anymore the consciousness of oneness. They're not just a flow from oneness. Rather, everybody's on their own. I'm on my own, you're on your own. Right? That's the concept of what we talk about ego, right? What is ego? Ego easing God out, easing greatness out. Right? Easing gorgeousness out. It's really easing unity out. It's away from the experience of unity, of oneness. And now it's yipared. I am I, you are you. I have to protect my turf, you have to protect your turf. That's the concept of Alma de Pruda, a world in which we experience ourselves as everybody is separate. The natural state of being is separation. In the higher place, it's not that. It's all one. Here becomes Pida. That's what he's saying. V'Yaakov Avinu olav hashalom. Interesting expression. Yaakov Avinu olav hashalom, of blessed memory, or peace unto him. Ratza lahaloisam l'mayla mayla. He wanted to bring up the rivers. He wanted to bring them back to their source. What does it mean? She'egam lamata b'chinas yichud u'bittul mamish k'mayshol l'mayla. That even lamata, there should be the same yichud, the same oneness, and the same bittul, which is what oneness is, alignment with the source, mamish bittul, just like it is above. We said in the highest world, in Atzilus, Chachmei La, Be'er Sheva, over there, Iyu v'chayev echad. There's all the iris, there's all the kalim, but they're not split, they're chat, because they're one with him, so therefore they're also one with each other. It's all one. Down here, it's not like that. Everything is on its own. So Yaakov Avinu wants to be able to bring that even lamata in the place of pirud, which is charan. There should be able to be the same yichud, the same oneness, and the same bittul kamei lamayla. And that's why the first thing he focuses on is he takes from the stones of the place, and he puts them under his head. And now we're going to see why the fact that the stones from many became one is a critical element of the story, and why this becomes the theme. Avonim, in Kabbalah Chassidus, avonim is a metaphor for letters. Evan is a pebble, a stone, a rock. Letters are called avonim. What's your source? In Sefer Yetzirah, Samach Yud Sefer Yetzirah. Sefer Yetzirah is considered the oldest ancient Kabbalistic text from Avram Avinu. That Avram Avinu learned it. It's brought Chazal. Some say Rabbi Akiva wrote it, but it's considered the Chachma from Avram Avinu. And what does it say? Sefer Yetzirah. Shnei avonim b'nei shnei batim. 2 stones build 2 homes. Shalosh avonim b'nei shisha batim. 3 stones build 6 homes. Chuli. 4 stones, I think, build 24 homes. 5 stones build 120 homes. What is the? And he goes on. The 6 stones, I don't know, what's 760? Anybody knows? Once you hit 9, 10, 11 stones, you're done. And your calculator will break at some point. Yeah, it's crazy what happens. You don't think it's happening. What is the Sefer Yetzirah saying? He's talking about letters. Anybody builds a home with 2 stones, halavai, right? So he's talking about letters. If you have 2 letters, if you have a word of 2 letters, how many words can you build from that? 2. For example, take Aleph Beis. What can you do with Aleph Beis? How many words could you create from Aleph Beis? 2. Av and Ba. No more. Av is a father. Ba is came, or boy, come. Boy el ateva, boy el para. So you took 2 letters and you made 2 words. Every word is a bias. It's a structure. A word is a binyan, you understand? And here we understand what word, when we speak about words, people don't realize. You call it, in English expression, a wordsmith. There's a goldsmith, there's a blacksmith, There's a silversmith, there's a wordsmith. What's the beauty of a goldsmith or a silversmith or a blacksmith? You give him you give him schayra, separate things. He puts it together, welds it together, builds you a beautiful menorah, a beautiful bookcase, a beautiful table, a beautiful stand, a beautiful chair, a dining room table. A letter itself, you can't do much with a letter. A, ba, ga, A, B, C, D, E. Okay. What does a wordsmith do? Takes a letter and makes a building out of it. So you need to take the stones, bring them together. And the contractor now took disparate stones, bricks or stones, and builds you a beautiful home. Internal, external. So that's what the Sefer Yetzirah is saying. If you have 2 stones, which means 2 letters, you could build 2 homes. Av and Ba. But if you have 3 stones, you have 3 letters, suddenly you can already build 6 homes. 6. Try it out. Aleph, Beis, Gimel, how many words could you do? So you could do 6 words. Once it's 4, now you could do much more. I think it's like 24. Once it's 5, 120. Like take the name Elohim, Aleph, Lamed, Hey, Yud, Mem. You could build 120 houses. You could do Aleph, Lamed, Hey, Yud, Mem. You could do Lamed, Aleph, Hey, Yud, Mem. You could do Hey, Aleph, Lamed, Yud, Mem. You could do Yud, Al, you understand? It's the same letters. It's the same letters, but different combinations. Somebody gave you 5 bricks and you built 120 different homes. Somebody gives you 6 bricks, it's already, I think, 760. And once they give you 7 bricks, 8 bricks, 9 bricks, at some point it gets so much that the Sefer Yetzirah says stop counting. I mean, you could count it, but it's just crazy numbers. Once you get into 20, 21, 22, you could build crazy amounts of homes. What's the Sefer Yetzirah trying to say with this? Stam to kol ravonim. The pshat is, this is the whole story of creation. This is what we have to understand. That's what it's. You take many stones, you build a home, one home, and what happens in this home? People can live there. You create a structure where somebody could live. You take many oisias and you construct them into words, which become sentences, which become paragraphs, which become chapters, which become books. And what really, you built a home. What kind of built a home? Not a physical home, but you built a home. You built something in which seichel can dwell. An idea can be conveyed. How could anybody convey an idea to somebody else? We take it for granted. But that's what it really is happening. You're building something. Right? And a good speech, a good shiur, a good presentation, it's really a structure. It's a building. You're building. And just like a building, there's wiring and there's plumbing and there's electricity and there's the kitchen and there's the family room, right? A good shiur is all that. There's a dining room, there's a living room, there's a foyer, there's coming into the house, there's the ambience, there's the art that's there. You never thought of that. No, it's a serious thing. There's a beginning, there's a middle, there's an end. It's all about structure. Why is it so important? Just like a home. Because if he puts the wiring in the wrong place, or he puts the door in the wrong place, right, nobody could live there. You can't live there. So you need a place where people could live. So what's the idea of oisius? He says, oisius create something, shebehem islapshus haseichel. Just like you create a home where you could live, the oisius become vessels. They become the home in which something can be lived. It's not the oisius themselves. You're not interested in ba, ga, da, ha, va, 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 za, za, cha. What's the difference between good literature and trash literature? Yeah, what's the difference when you read a book, I'm a chaya to read, and another one that's like pre-1A, they need pre-1A grammar lessons. The difference is not the letters. Everybody's using the same letters. It's how they combine the letters. Yeah. This combination becomes a channel for a grand, beautiful idea or feeling. And this combination is like, it's a keli for trash living, for homelessness. You take the same letters, it could be foul language if you put it together, right? You take an S, you take an H, you take another, it's just foul language. It's trash, it's junk. The same letters. You take this very same letters, and it's a beautiful poem or a beautiful love note or a beautiful article or essay. Same letters, same avonim, but the tziruf, it's all how you put it together. It's completely different. So here you have an eloquent essay. Every word is gold. And here you have every word is more trash than the other word. And even if it's not filthy and dirty, but you're not saying anything. Yeah. I think you told me once. Somebody said about somebody in his family, whatever he said. He has a chush, he says, zakt und zakt und zakt und zakt und zakt garnished. It's a chush. Yeah. It's a chush. It's a zagen azay fill and zagen garnished. Like you need a special seyata d'shmaya. You build and build, and sometimes you see it in a home, right? They build and build and build, and at the end, everything is falling apart. If you don't know what you're doing, it's the same bricks, but it's different. So the Sefer Yetzirah is telling us, you have to understand what oisius are. Oisius are not a small little thing. Don't take it for granted. You're building something. Either it's going to be a home where people could live. In other words, you're going to be conveying seichel, midas. That's like the person who lives. You're going to be conveying a light there, just like a home. It's not there to have an empty house. That's not what a house is for. A house is there for somebody to move into the house. You don't build a house just to build a house and it should be empty. What's the point of it? Oisius are here to contain something, to convey, to allow something to live through them, to be revealed through them, to be manifested through them. Like the house, they become one with the person. This is my house. What makes it my house? You're one with your house, especially for women. They're called akaris habayis. They have to feel one with their home. If a woman doesn't like her house, husband could run to shul. It's fine. There's cholent, there's soup, there's shiurim. It's fine. If a woman doesn't like her house, it's like a certain connection. It's like it's your house. Akaris, it's like your house. It becomes one with you. For some men, it's also that way, but for women, it's a known thing. They take a house, they turn it into a home, right? There's a house and there's a home. It's a different thing. The house is a dormitory, it's also a house, and then there's a home, a bias. So that's one nikud. If a gam, there's another nikud. This other nikud is Kamoy Shavana Mimchinis Daimim Shumadrega Yeser Tachtoina. Mikola Dal Yesaides Daimim Tzemeh Chaim Medaber. Kamoy Kina Oisis Lagabi Asechel Malubish Bam Mimchinis Daimim Betachl Shein Merech Asechel Klau. One nikud is that the oisis convey ideas, just like the home becomes a space where somebody lives. Another nikud is here the opposite. What's the relationship between the stones and the human consciousness? Everybody knows stones is daimim. From daimim tzemeh chaim, from the four categories of life: inanimate, botany, that which grows, animals, and people. Avanim adaimim, they're lifeless. So you can't compare the rock to the person that lives there. And yet, it's the bricks and the rocks that become the place where you live. But you're not going to say that the stones themselves capture the energy of a person. They don't. Nonetheless, they become the place where the person lives. So that's what he's saying. Just like Havana Mar Doimim, the same issue, Oisius Lagabe Seichel. Oisius Lagabe Seichel, when we think about it, right? What does ba, ga, da, ha have? It's like an evan, it's like a stone. It's daimim, it's lifeless, it's silent. Daimim means silent, like dead. Like that's what's called daimim. Daimim vayidaim aron, because daimim doesn't say anything. Right? Semeach, there's growth, the tree is moving. Chai, there's sounds and consciousness and feelings. Medaber is a person. A lot of sounds. Some of us don't stop talking. But daimim is quiet. Yeah? If you go to a desert, you see these mountains, like they're there for thousands of years, they don't say a word, they're fine. But they hold themselves, but they're daimim. That's what avonim are, earth, all these types of things. Silent. You could even say it's dead. It's not really dead, it's alive, but it looks dead. It looks like daimim. Before they had the ability to see what's happening inside daimim, today we know that atoms are moving around, in every daimim there's a very lively universe. The Arizal says that in every daimim there's a nefesh, there's a neshama. The Alter Rebbe brings in Tanya that everything has a soul. But the way it appears is, it's silent, I don't say a word, I have nothing to say. Daimim. So oisius legabe seichel is like avanim legabe the person. You understand? What's oisius themselves? Ba, ga. So what's the miracle? How is it that from ga, da, ha, va, suddenly you build a home of a beautiful, beautiful idea? Because every ois l'chayda 0 plus 0 plus 0 plus 0 equals 0. So how is it from ba, ga, da, ha, va, za, cha, ta? You get the point. I don't have to go through all the 22. Suddenly there's a beautiful binyan here. So the answer is, it's not one ois or another ois. Like this ois is daimim on its own. But the combination of all the oisius capture something. But the oisius themselves, legabe the seichel is daimim. So these are the two inyanim. Nimtza movin mikol anal sha'avonim nikru oisius. What's the nekuda here? That letters are called avonim, stones are called oisius. Letters are called avonim. So why is that negeya kamoikin hulamayla? This is a metaphor for the whole system of the way Hashem creates the worlds. The heaven was made with the words of God. That's what it says in Tehillim. Bidvar Hashem. Like we say also in Bereshis. Vayomer Elikim. Hashem said, let there be light. Hashem said, let there be the heavens. Let there be the stars. Let there be the sun and the moon. It's all Vayomer Elikim. He said. Bidvar Hashem Shemayim Naso. Like Chazal say, Ba'asara Ma'amoros Nivra Ha'elam in Pirkei Avos. He created the world through 10 utterances, Ma'amoros. Why? What does that mean? What does it mean? He spoke and there's a world. What does that mean? When we speak, that's the metaphor, Oisius. The whole world essentially is Oisius. The whole world. Whatever you're looking at letters. That's what you're looking at. It's fascinating. The Alter Rebbe is going to explain this now. But until the discovery of DNA, which is only in the 1950s, they discover in every living organism, every gene, every cell, you have trillions, you have around 60 trillion cells in your body, and every cell has a double copy, what's called a genome, a double copy of it. And in that you have the DNA, which is the blueprint of the entire organism. It's like the plan, literally the blueprint with the instructions and the manual. And all the cells are following that DNA. And DNA in science they call letters because their sequence is like a sequence. It's like a program code. If you know programming, the back end of a computer, if you ever look at a programmer, I don't know if you ever see, what does it look like? Like thousands of letters, gibberish. An L with a, you know about programming, yeah? I don't. But when a programmer once showed it to me, it looked like you could change the L for the K. Like, who cares? It looked like just gibberish. Like, not. But the truth is, right? There's like 6 question marks. If you take out 1 question mark, yeah, you could call the Chevra Kadisha to your computer. Yeah, it crashes literally. Yeah, it's like you put in an internet address, right? And then you take out the dot. Who needs the dot? You'll be without a dot. The stupid, stubborn guy needs a dot, right? The truth is, you take out that dot, the email ain't going anywhere. It's going to stay in your box. Why? You say, what's a dot? You look at it as a dot, but the dot is really capturing a code. You understand? For us dummies who don't know about programming, it turned into a dot. I see all the computer programmers are getting excited. Don't worry, I don't know what I'm talking about. I just know that I don't know what I'm talking about, because when I see these things, it's like, okay, it's not for me. I'm going to deal with the front end. I'm going to be from the dummies dealing with the front end. But the back end, it's all Oisius. DNA is mamish the same thing. It's not really letters, but they call it letters because it's that concept. It's like a program which is all about sequence. It's all about sirufim. It's about how you take the letters and you put them together. In a person's DNA, for example, if you change one sequence, it can create a churban in a person. Diseases and sicknesses and all these things. Just a little. And you know how much order there is over there. They say that the DNA, if you would be able to take it apart and decipher it, the DNA in a person, in one of your cells, you can go back here to the moon 3 times, and you have a double copy of it in every cell. It's crazy. It's crazy. To say that happened randomly, you have to go here in the moon 3 times to be able to say it happened randomly. And that's only what we know, yeah. What's the point? So when you look at you look at any living organism, really, it's Oisius. That's what it is. At the core of it is Oisius. But the same is true of the whole universe. So that's what he says. Everything is Oisius. We say in Ashrei, in Tehillim, your Malchus, your kingship is the kingship of all the worlds. Pirush, Shechayis Kaloilam Shem Olam Hadin Ketz Kameshakas Vayesh Mispel Gedudov, the vitality of all the worlds which are really endless. Like the pasuk says, is there a number to his legions? Hineim Kol Zeh Moker V'Sherish Chayusim Eni Ela B'Bchinas Malchusoi Shu B'Chinas Dvar Hashem Chuli Amechayim Avayis Mayin Liyash Tamid. You have to understand that even though it's infinite, the source of their chayis is Malchus. Malchuscha Malchus Kaloilam. What's Malchus? Malchus is the word of Hashem, which brings them into existence from nothingness into somethingness constantly. Because you're talking about creations that are finite. Their comprehension has a gvul, meaning even the highest worlds have a finiteness to them, and their comprehension is finite. The Gemara says in Chagiga, takes 500 years to get from the earth to heaven. However you explain what that number is, in other words, there's a finite number. And it's completely not be'erech to the light of Hashem, which is Ein Sof, which is revealed in the higher worlds. Because when you're talking about finite worlds, in order for them to be able to function as they function as finiteness, the Ur needs to be a type of Ur which gives them vitality in a way that they can remain finite. So you can't even compare it to the light that's Ein Sof, which is revealed in higher worlds, and then in higher worlds and higher worlds. And that's why it's all about Isis. The only way they could receive their energy is from the Dvar Hashem, from the Isis. Just like we said before, that Isis are doimim legabi the seichel. And Avanim, stones, are doimim. Doimim means lifeless, legabi the person living in the home. The same is true, the Isis, which is the divine structure creating the world, is doimim legabi Ein Sof. It would be like lifeless legabi the Ein Sof, because that is what allows for consciousness that's finite. So you understand, even though for us this consciousness is everything, it's everything. This is our life, but it's relative to Ein Sof. It's like an ice. It's an ice, which is like diamond, which is like dead. Now it's not dead. This is the chayis of Hashem, b'dvar Hashem. But why are we calling it Isis? That's the dig. Why it's called Isis? Because you have to understand the level of tzimtzum, the level of restrictedness that went into the consciousness that creates all the worlds, so that it should be able to be a finite world. You typhus? And that's even if you're aware of them. Even if you're aware of this energy, which is in itself a very powerful thing, that you're aware of the energy that creates you, you're aware of the Isis, legabi Ein Sof, it's daimim. The herst is daimim. Yeah. Kadosh, Hashem tzva'is. What's tzva'is? K'mayim Razal, ois hu b'tzva'is shaloi. The word tzva'is is Kadosh, Hashem tzva'is. Tzva'is is two words, he says. Tzava, ois. Tzava is an army. Ois is a letter. So the whole chayis of all the worlds comes from Hashem tzva'is, which is one ois in his army. It's like one letter in the tzava, in the army. V'av shem elef alafin. I have myriads of legions, thousands. K'mishakos of elef alafin yisham shunei. V'dibidavavin kadamayi. The Navi says thousands upon thousands serve him, and myriads stand in front of him. K'mishakos of ayesh mispel gedudav. How are you calling it an ice? His tzava is not an army of three people. You're talking about myriads and myriads and myriads. Im kol zeh me'achar she'im balei gvul, because they're all finite. Chiyusam einay elam b'chinas ois echas bilvat. So you could define it that the whole energy is like from one letter. Shu b'chinas doimim legamri shelegabi shem havaya shu b'chinas Ein Sof. Legabi shem havaya, which is Ein Sof, it's like a stone. It's like a doimim. It's oisu b'tzava shalai. Tzvakos, oisu. On one hand, Isis are everything. If you don't have a home, nobody could live there. The home is what allows you to be present. Right. And just like in words, it's the Isis that allow you to get the Seichel and Midas. That's the communication skill. That's how you're going to communicate it. But it's only through Isis. And the Is, l'gabe the Seichel, what comes through the Isis is Daimon. Yeah. We'll see. Because the ishtalshalus of all the worlds. The next stage. In other words, the evolution of all the worlds, with all the different levels, it's all based on Sirufei Isis. It's all based on the combinations of letters of the Dvar Hashem to create individual creations, Balig Vul v'Nefradim. Just like we said, 2 stones build you 2 homes. Different combinations make different words. If you have 5 letters, you can make 120 words. But you have to do different sirufim. So every creature is a different siruf. That's what makes individuality. It's all Isis, the 22 letters. But how do you combine them? If you have Aleph Beis, you have one type of creation. So you have Mayim, is Mem, Yud, Mem. Mem, Yud, and Mem could be also, you could have Yud, Yud, Nun, is Yayin. So you have a Yud there also. But this is wine, this is water. Eish is Aleph Shin. Chamor is Ches, Mem, Vav, Resh. Or horse is Sus. You could use Samach for other things, but it's the combination of Sus that creates the home, it creates the energy, that channels the energy that needs to create the chemistry of a horse, or of a donkey, or a fire, or of water. And that means it's very heavy because the entire chemistry of water is one that's based on the letters Mem, Yud, Mem. That's why it says Adam named every animal. Hashem wanted Adam to name every animal. What's the big deal? Because the names weren't random names. A table, a horse, a donkey, a lion, a monkey, a chimpanzee. The names were consistent with the chemistry of the thing that had that name. So, yeah, it's a real name. It's a description of reality, not just on an external level, but also on an internal level. That means you had to understand the chemistry of a donkey, or of a lion, or of a bear, or of a camel, and not just the physical chemistry, but the spiritual chemistry. Which Isis are channeling the energy that creates this type of creation. And it's true every tree and every shrub and every bush and every plant, every fruit, every vegetable, every living organism and every reality in the world. That's what he said. The whole Ishtalshlus, everything, Madregas, it's all different sirufim. That's what it is. Same letters, but different sirufim. Different combinations create a different home. A different home is for a different person, different style, different energy. Different perspectives, yeah. Every child, yeah. Mayim is Mem, Yud, Mem, right? Because what's Mayim made of? H2O. Hydrogen, 2 of hydrogen, 2 atoms of hydrogen, and 1 of oxygen. So it's H2O. So you have Mem, Yud, and Mem. Hydrogen is 2, and oxygen. So the spiritual chemistry and the physical chemistry are always in sync because the physical comes from the spiritual. It's just Isis. The way Isis are manifested in the physical reality, but it's all Isis. Just like when you look at a person, it's DNA. It's your DNA it's just manifesting it. And if there's something wrong in the body, the DNA gives an instruction how to fix this, how to fix that. It's like crazy. And the cells are just doing that shlichus. They're just following that blueprint. You don't realize it. Every tree, like it has its DNA, like there's a whole program. We take it for granted, but that's the idea. There's Isis giving it life. So b'meila, the tziruf is all based. All the creations are based on the different combinations. V'Yaakov Avinu alav Shalom Ratzah loisam l'mayla. Comes Yaakov, and he wants to do something revolutionary. He wants to take all the Isis, and he wants to bring them back to their source. L'zois vayikach me'avnei hamokim shem Isis harbe v'osamen even achas shu Is hayud shezel vayosem irashoisav. So the first thing Yaakov does is he takes all the stones harbe, avnei, plural. All the stones by definition are plural. Because every Is is a different energy. Aleph, Beis, Gimel, Dalet, Hey, Vav. And that's why the world is fragmented. Everything is a different siruf and it has its own letter, its own combination, its own structure. And what does Yaakov do? He takes me'avnei vayosem irashoisav. The first thing is he brings him to his head. What's mirashoisav, he says? That's Yud. We said before, Yud is Chachma. So vayosem mirashoisav, he puts them all by his head, he reveals in them the Yud. Just like a person, you have ideas, you have midas, you have emotions. And your letters become garments for your seichel and midas, which are enclosed in letters. That's how you communicate what you're feeling. That's how you communicate what you're thinking. By Hashem, you have chachma bina das, and zayin tachtonis is chesed gvur tiferes netzach chod yesod malchus. These are all going to be conveyed through the Isis. But over there, the Chachma is not a known Chachma, it's beyond us. He's not defined by Midas Hashamu, because over there, they're all one and with him. All are one with him. The Dvar Hashem is like the Isis in which Hashem's inner wisdom and consciousness is closed, is conveyed through the Isis. And every creature has some of those Isis that define it. That's what he's saying. Yud is the smallest letter. It's a seminal point. So what does Yud represent? What is Yud conveying? Yud is conveying Chachma, because Chachma is Ayin, Chachma is Bittel. So which letter could convey that? Yud, which is a Nakuda. It's almost like not here. It's almost not here. And that's what Chachma is, Bittel. Hay is more expansive in width and in breadth. Why? Because it's a garment for Bina. Bina comes through Hay. All the letters, every letter is a conveyor for a different energy. Everyone. So Yaakov takes all the stones and he turns them into one stone. Which stone? Yud. He turns them all into Yud by Yasimir Ashaisav, by his head, because they should all become elevated to the state of the consciousness of Chachmela. That's the first thing he does. What's the Alter Rebbe saying here? What's the Nekuda here? In simple words, what is Yaakov trying to do? Huh? How do we explain in Isis what Yaakov Avinu is trying to do? So the truth is he's trying to get rid of the Isis, right? Not getting rid of the Isis, elevating the Isis. Not having the Isis become sources of divisiveness and fragmentation, but rather bring them back to unity. So in a very, practical, more concrete words, what's the Nekuda here? What's the point? Like it says in Pirkei Avos, "Ba'asara ma'amaros nivra ha'olam." The world was created through 10 utterances. Asks the Mishnah, Perek Hey, Pirkei Avos, "V'aloi b'maimer echad yachal baris." He could have created the world with one utterance, not with 10. Why did he have to have 10? So he answers. Remember what he answers: "Li'para min harishayim v'litin sachar tov l'tzadikim." In order to exact payment from the Rishayim who destroy a world that was created with asara ma'amaros, not one. And to give schar, reward to tzaddikim, who build a world and preserve a world that was created with Hasarim Amaris, not one. In other words, they get much more reward because they're not only preserving a world of one utterance, they're preserving a world of 10 utterances. And the Rishayim are not destroying a world of one Maimon, they're destroying a world of 10 Mamaris. That's what the Mishnah is saying. So it's an interesting Mishnah. Really, Hashem could have created the world with one utterance. It would basically say, he could have created the world in a second. But he created the world in 1,000,000 seconds. So that way, if you destroy it, you didn't just destroy 1 second of my time. You destroyed 1,000,000 seconds. You helped me, you preserved 1,000,000 seconds. Oh, you're going to get different punishment, different schar. It's an interesting Mishnah. The Medrash Shmuel asks over there, he says, I don't understand. Okay. If I bought a watch and somebody ripped me off, it was really worth $1. The guy told me and sold me the Brooklyn Bridge that it cost $10,000. So I paid for this watch $10,000. It's deception. Now you come, you take the watch and you break it. What's your chiyuv to pay? You have to pay $10,000, you have to pay $1. What's the halacha? $1. Chaka, the guy paid $10,000. You should take your original Ghana for the Torah and get back your money. But I broke a watch that's worth $1. If you paid for this tissue box, $50,000, or whatever, you were deceived. They said, I don't know, does magic, whatever, stops colds. But if I destroy your tissue box, I pay 75 cents. What's a tissue box today? $1.50. Huh? The banana, yeah. You understand? You paid for it. You decided to pay $50,000. I'm so sorry. Go get back your money. But I didn't destroy $50,000. I destroyed $150,000. Give me $150,000. Gewaltige Shaila. The Mishnah says the opposite. Because Hashem decided that He's going to do 10 mamaras, that's my problem. You could have done it with one maimer. Let's face it, the world is worth $1. You decided to spend $100,000, so it's your problem. I destroyed $1. You're telling me yourself it could have been one maimer. Just to give him more einish or more reward. And b'chlal, it seems a cruel thing. Just to be able to punish them more, we're going to make it more expensive. Like, a good kasha, no? So the Alter Rebbe explains, another Maimon explains, and you see why I'm bringing it out, because this is the Nekuda. It's not stam, it's a little joke. He could have done it this way, he could have done it this way. It would have been a different type of world. The world of Maimer Echad and the world of Asara Mamaris, it's a different world. The world of Maimer Echad is a world in which the whole world is one utterance. A world of 10 utterances means a world of pirud, a world of diversity. In other words, when we look at the world, we see immediately diversity. The only thing that we all have in common is that we're different. You know that, right? That's the real one thing we have in common. We're different. The moment you take that away, you're actually striking an arrow. You're striking a bullet into the consciousness of the universe. The fabric of the universe is difference. That's the one thing we have in common. We're all and when you try to negate that, you're fighting the universe. It's a real thing. Asara mamaris nivra olam. What would the world look like if it was Maimer Echad? What the world would look at Maimer Echad is, you would look at a tree, you would look at a squirrel, you would look at a donkey, you'd look at a deer, you'd look at a blade of grass, you'd look at a flake of snow, a droplet of water, a tissue box, or coffee beans, and then you would look at yourself, and what would you see? You would see Echad. Everybody is just conveying infinite consciousness. That's it. He may do it through the tree. The squirrel does it through being a squirrel. The tomato does it through being a tomato. And I do it through asking why.
You don't have a system of laws, so you're not fearing God. You don't know how to fear God.
Oh, but over there, the consciousnesses were just a manifestation of one. And it would be in consciousness. It wouldn't just be a philosophy. It would be somatic. That would be the experience. In a chaname. So, but Maimer Echad Yachal Baris. The Alter Rebbe says Yachal doesn't mean he could have. It means he did in a state of Yechilas, in a deeper state of potentiality. Everything is a Maimer Echad. But then there would be no tzaddikim and no rishayim. It's not that you want to get back at the rishayim, you want to get back at the tzaddikim. The whole achievement of tzaddikim, the whole achievement of bringing back into unity is only because it's Asar Mamaris. Asar Mamaris means that ego is essential to the universe. But you could take ego, it's back to what we discussed in the previous Maimer, right? You can't get drunk. Noach wants to get drunk. What happens when you get drunk? I kiss you, I hug you, you're not conscious, I'm not conscious, we're all drunk. We go in like to a space where everything is one. You know, Simchas Torah Gansiar. So why don't you just stay Simchas Torah? Stay put him there. The pshat is that there's coming back into differentiation. That's Asara Mamaris. Asara Mamaris is a different type of world. It's not Maimer Echad, it's a different world. Maimer Echad is a world in which you feel the Ein Sof, there's Achdus, there's oneness, and everybody is just manifesting it. And that's Shema Vaya, Hoya, Hoyva, past, present, future, because just like the boundaries of space are removed, the boundaries of time are removed. Space and time work together. They're all a chiddush of the Big Bang. Yeah, everything is one. And it doesn't mean one that there's no space. There could be space, there could be time. But you feel a oneness. Because the Ein Sof, like Iyu v'chayoyechad, Iyu v'garmoyechad, all the diversity is really one. It's all one. But as a result of all the tzimtzumim, or the oisias, what do you have? You have diversity. It's not just 10. The 10 become millions and trillions and zillions and sectillions. in one needle of a needle, one point of a needle or a pencil, I don't know if you know how many atoms you have. Every atom is an ois. Every atom is an ois. And subatomic particles are also oisius. They're like sub-oisius. You know how many oisius you have? In one needle, in one point of a pencil, you know how many atoms you have? We don't even, it's numbers that nobody can imagine. And they're all working in perfect harmony. They're all working. Every ois has its tziruf. Right? If one atom decides to quit, because there's a whole system how atoms work. You have the nucleus, neutrons, electrons, and it revolves around the nucleus with a speed that is unbelievable. And that's literally what holds the world together. Like, people don't realize what's happening. You know, we look at it, it's like a lifeless universe. It's not. Even a stone, there's a whole living consciousness inside of it. And if one of those atoms decides, I'm going on vacation, I've been turning as I'm a sugar and making a kafis, as I from stages and mebedeshes, it's time to stop a kafis, you could sit down for a kiddush. You know what happens to our world? Boom! They don't stop. But they allow for a world of diversity. Because everything has a different structure. Ultimately, all the atoms are one. In other words, the material is one. It's just different combinations. That's what creates diversity of matter. That's asara mamaris. And the asara becomes more asara. That's oisius. Every ois has its own energy and there's different combinations, and therefore we're so different. But what allows it is that it's oisius, and oisius are like dead legabe the seichel. They're doimim. And that's why with all of our consciousness, what we're feeling is, the moment you feel Ein Sof, the energy you're feeling is like daimim legabe the Ein Sof. What's Yaakov's avodah? And essentially this is the beginning of the building of the Jewish family, is one thing. To take all the avonim and say, we know the truth, it's one Evan. It's one stone. It's going back into trust, back into oneness, back into flow, constantly. But not by negating the fact that there's Avnei HaMakom. There's no stones. That's not the Vart. The Vart is Vayikach me Avnei HaMakom. It starts off Vayasim Rashaisav. He first brings them back to the Yud, to one stone. What's the one stone? Chachmei. What's Chachmei? Chachmei is the highest form of consciousness. It's already Chachma. It's divine consciousness. And that's why it's a Yud. Because Yud is the smallest letter. So what can Yud convey? Yud conveys Chachma. Because Chachma is always Bittel. Chachma is ayin. Like we always say, what is Chachma? Chachma is the border between the unconscious and the conscious. Where do you get an epiphany from? You're walking in the street. Where did it come from? It came from inside. You're struggling with something and then you suddenly have an insight. Where did it come from? Inside. So why didn't you say it yesterday? The answer is I didn't have access to my unconscious. I didn't have access because the unconscious is ayin. Ayin doesn't mean it doesn't exist. It doesn't exist in ego. It doesn't exist as a construct. It doesn't exist as a yesh. Ayin is no thingness. It's not a thing, so I can't hold on to it. Chachma is the bridge between ayin and yesh. It's like brings in the ayin. And that's why Chachma is always about surrender. Kayach ma. The ability to say what? It's the curiosity. If I'm stuck in my perceptions, I'm never going to learn something new. So I'm always just building around my ego. It's always openness to something deeper. That's Yud. That's why the letter is Yud, because it represents a smallness. Not because you're small, because you're a keli for something much larger than you. So of course your ego becomes small. That's why Chachma is so small, Yud. It's the smallest letter. Because that's what makes you a vessel for Chachma. The bittul makes you a vessel for Chachma. If I'm something, I'm not a vessel for Chachma. Then I just repeat everything. I never learn anything new. For people to learn something new, they need to be able to surrender everything. You heard what I just said? And that's why so many of us will never learn anything new. We will never learn anything new. We'll just put it back into the old categories. You hear something, you put it into a filing cabinet, and if it doesn't fit, you say it's apicursus. Or the guy's crazy, he's off his rocker. Or he's on something, whatever. Boom, next. I can't really integrate anything new. And we become so critical of everything, which is good. It's good to be critical because you don't want to be brainwashed and used. But what happens, a lot of people, they become so critical, they now close their mind to anything. You become so cynical, there's no chachma anymore, there's no curiosity. A child is full of curiosity. You see, children ask you, I remember I was once walking with one of my boys to shul, he was very young, and he looks and he tells me, why is the cement always gray? Why is the road always black? Why is the grass always green? Good questions. Why is the sky blue? And then we start saying, stop asking these questions. And then they stop. But that's the most important. Why is the sky blue? Right? The tzitzis has tchelas. The Gemara says, because tchelas, doima liyam, and yam doima l'rakia, and rakia doima l'kisya kavet. It's a whole beer, however you explain that. Royal blue. The curiosity, the openness. I once heard from somebody, he said like this, Shlomo Melech says, Pesi yamin l'chol davar. Fools believe everything. Va'arum yavin davar la'ashuris. Smart people, they want to understand. They don't believe everything. A pesi, a fool is yamin. So they said that once there was a summit of all the fools. All the fools in the world came together. They had a conference, a kinos, a gathering, a convention. The Gemara says this kinos l'tzadikim, this kinos l'rishayim, this was a kinos l'tipshim. It was a kinos, all the fools. And there was a crisis. What was the crisis? Amal, people didn't know that we're fools. Why? Because nobody knows who's a shaita. So we could seem intelligent. People would do shidduchim with us. They would respect us. But once Shlomo Melech said, Pesi yamin l'chol davar, oh, he disclosed the secret. Now everybody knows who's a fool because we believe everything. So the moment you see somebody believes everything, you know he's a Pesi. That's it. We've been disqualified. That's the crisis. Shlomo Melech ruined it. He revealed the code of the fools. So they gathered for 7 days and 7 nights to deal with this crisis. And they came to a conclusion that they must hide their identity so people don't know that they're fools. So what did they decide at that moment? Shlomo Melech said fools believe everything. So they decided we're not going to believe anything. And ad hayom hazeh, that's their minhag. Verstehst? Huh? That's their minhag. Very good, very good. Ad hayom hazeh, that's the minhag. We don't believe anything. And now, and you'll see that those are the people that consider themselves the biggest chachamim. You won't sell me anything. People say, come to this shiur, it's going to be life-changing. Been there. I've seen all the corruptions, all the con artists in the world. I don't believe anything. And you're proud. Nobody's going to, nobody's going to sell me the George Washington, the Tappan Zee, the Brooklyn, the Williamsburg. I'm going to remain secure. And what happens at that moment? You're the biggest shaita in the world, with all due respect. You know why? You closed yourself off from everything. It's true, people are users, and it's true you have to be careful. You have to use your critical mind. But don't block off the energy. Life is attachment, life is connection, life is infinity. But what cynicism does, it kills it. I don't believe anything. Okay, so what do I have? I'm stuck in my little fear and cynicism and insecurity. I just blocked it.
You turn off the water, you don't know where to leak it.
Yeah, you turn off all the water because you don't want leaks. So what happens? There's no shower, there's no tap water, you can't wash your hands, but there's no water, there's no leaks. It's true, you don't leak. Nobody gets from you anything. Nobody's going to baganva me, nobody's going to brainwash me, nobody's going to hurt my kids. Okay, we understand why. But what's the result of that? We get into our little box, we close ourselves off, and that's it. Emotionally, I'm talking about. And among many sophisticated and enlightened Hasidim and other beautiful religious Jews, this is a very common issue. Huh? Chaim Levracha. Very, very important. And you have to say it without judgmentalism, because if a person was in a system where all they saw was a lot of manipulation and nobody was authentic, or at least they didn't meet authentic people, so you assume that's the universe and you need to protect yourself. So it's much better for me to be a fool than to be abused. I get it. Let me remain a depressed fool, but at least nobody will be taking advantage of me. But here, the Alter Rebbe is liberating us and helping us go into a different consciousness. You don't go away from the stones. You don't go away. There's no world. I'm bottled. You take the stones. Yaakov elevates all the stones to the Yud, Chachmei La. That means he tells every letter, I know who you are. You're coming from somewhere. You're not just an isolated combination. Your combination is important. You're water, you're fire. Right? You're Reb Nechemya, you're Reb Shaul. You're different names. You don't just swap names. You have a different height, your color is different, you have a different metabolism, you have different skills. Right? This one is great in the mind, this one is great in the heart, and this one is great in the arms, and this one is great in the legs, and this one is great in the torso, every limb. But a guf, what's the magic of a body? that every limb knows it's part of an organism. And if one limb says, you know what? I don't like the other parts. I'm going into my self-contained reality. It doesn't only kill the rest of the body, it kills itself. You're not taking revenge, right? The heart says, I'm done with all of you. I'm done. This stupid brain, he's a dictator, he's a manipulator, telling me a whole day what to do. I'm done. The heart says, I'm going independent. I'm going independent. You want to vote for me, vote for me. You don't want, go back to your crazy parties. So you know what happens to the heart, yeah, when it goes independent? It didn't realize that what made it a heart was that it was part of something. Interdependence, yeah. It's not connection from a place of I'm nothing. It's connection from a place of glory. It's real safety. It's real trust. It's iyu v'chayo yechad, iyu v'garma yechad. In other words, in the source, everything is one. All the spheres are one. There's no Isis. It's beyond Isis. It's the inner consciousness. The Isis create diversity. We need that diversity because that's what the tzimtzum is. That's what creates a world which there's separateness and there's identity. And everybody has their own uniqueness which needs to be celebrated. Asara mamaris, not maimer echad. And that's why there's a difference of tzaddikim and rishayim. Because you have a choice. I could go into ego, which is separateness. I'm separate from you. I choose not to trust. I choose not to connect. I choose not to go into flow out of fear. And I just go into my own space. And that's where we relate from. Like in relationships, this happens very often. It's confrontation. It's really torture. Because we're really made to be unified. We're not made to be separate. That's what Yaakov, that's the secret. He's cracking, he's cracking the code of the universe. He's like cracking the code. He's like, I see it's all Isis. And Isis come from an author of Isis. And every Isis combining a different energy, but it's all an energy that's flowing. It's one river. Could you bring it all back to the one river? And when you bring it back to the one river, Aden, Gan, Aden, that's Chachmela, that's the Yud. And the Yud is a Keli for Chachma, the Hey is a Keli for Bina. That's why Hey is expansive. Yud, Hey, and Vav, and Hey. Yud is Chachma, Hey is Bina, Vav is the six Midas, and the last Hey is Malchus. Every letter is a channel for energy. And that's why everybody has a different name. You know, Misha Berich, you sometimes add a name, because a name is energy. So now Yaakov takes all the stones, and he brings them together. Of course he made it one stone. It's not some miracle, you know, the funny, cute miracle for the coloring books for the kids, to take 10 stones, and then 12 stones, and then make them into one. It's the whole nikud of everything. It's not that there was a miracle that he made many stones into one stone. It's because the miracle is the consciousness of it. Somebody once wrote, I saw, his name was Steinman, he said, you know, people say that all the stories with the Baal Shem Tov happen or not happen. You know, the wagon flew with the Saderech, he was in a town. It happened, didn't happen. So he said, people don't realize that the biggest miracle about the Baal Shem Tov was the Baal Shem Tov. Bigger than any other miracle that the Baal Shem Tov did is the Baal Shem Tov himself. Right? Bigger than any other miracle of the Alter Rebbe is the Alter Rebbe himself is the miracle. You're not going to get a better miracle than that. Just that there's such a person channeling such truth, that's the biggest miracle. The biggest miracle of Ayikach Mavnei Amakim is not, you know, the stone suddenly, abra, one stone. It's the inner energy. Everybody knows in quantum physics, the observer affects the reality. That's the nikud of the miracle. You hear about Avram, the interpretation. Yaakov didn't see many stones. He saw one stone. They became one stone. That's why he went to sleep. Of course he went to sleep. Yeah, you don't do this in regular consciousness. I'm not in a quantum field. No, it's true. It's not stam. When Yaakov went to sleep, there's a whole sikha of the Rebbe. The Vayetze Tavshin Beis was the last Fabrengen of the Rebbe Vayetze. So this was his whole nekuda, that we went to sleep. The head and the legs are on the same level. So on one level, one thing you could say, you're not thinking, you're just asleep. On a deeper level, you go to a place where the highest, the head and the leg are on the same level because you're connecting to the Ein Sof, Hashava Mashva Katan V'Gadol. So it's not so far what you're saying. Yeah. Vayishka b'makam hahu. He says when he woke up, Achin yesh Hashem b'makam hazav anoichi lo yadati. Hashem is here and I didn't know. So Rashi writes, why is he saying that? So Rashi says, if I would have known, I would have not gone to sleep. So the Rebbe Teichton, he said like this, Im yadati, if I would have remained on a level of das, I could never reach the equilibrium that I reached in sleep. She'im yadati, if I would have wanted to remain in das, punkt varket. If I would have remained in das, Like, I need to control it with my mind. I could have never gone to that space. Nun Beis, yeah, Vayetzi Nun Beis. He said that the Mittler Rebbe, the Rebbe's son, his yahrzeit is Tes Kislev, and his birthday is Tes Kislev, and his Chag Agula is Yud Kislev, because he was also arrested and liberated. So there was Yud Kislev Tov Kuf Pei Zayin. He was liberated. The next year, Tes Kislev, he passed away, and he was also born Tes Kislev. Tov Kuf Lamadalad, he was named after the Maggid, Doiv Ber, Rabbeinu Doiv Ber, because he was a year after the Elul of the Maggid. He passed away, Yud Tes Kislev Tov Kuf Lamad Gimel, and the Mittler Rebbe was born a year later. So the Rebbe named him for his Rebbe, Doiv Ber. So the Tzemach Tzedek was a son-in-law of the Mittler Rebbe and a nephew, because he was a grandson of the Alter Rebbe and his son-in-law. So Tzemach Tzedek once said about his father-in-law, the Mittler Rebbe. The Mittler Rebbe was like the Bina of Chassidus. The Alter Rebbe was the Chachma. The Mittler Rebbe took the Maimonides with the Alter Rebbe and he expands and expands. Every Maimer could be in Torah Maimer 2 pages, and by the Mittler Rebbe it's like 30 pages. He was like the Bina, like the Hay. The Alter Rebbe was the Yud, he's the Hay. So the Tzemach Tzedek once said, als wird geschnitten, dem schweres Finger, wollt gerunen nicht Blut nach Chassidus. If they would cut my father-in-law's finger, the Mittler Rebbe, you wouldn't see blood coming out, you would see Chassidus coming out. That's what the Tzemach Tzedek said. So everybody, teaches, it's like a militza, it's like a poetic language. If you cut in other words, that's how much he was connected to it. But in that Fabrengen, the Rebbe touched it different. It was Gevaldik. I remember what he said. He said, no, the Tzemach Tzedek meant literally. What's blood? Blood is nefesh habasar b'damhi. Blood is soul. It's life. Right? The soul is in the blood. What the Tzemach Tzedek meant, what? If you cut my father-in-law's finger, instead of blood would come out, Chassidus would come out. That's not what he meant. He meant that, of course, blood would come out. But what was his blood? His blood was Chassidus. It's not like a cute thing. Chassidus would come out instead of blood. No, it's just metaphoric. No, blood would come out. But that was Chassidus. What is he trying to say? Chassidus is not an idea, it's life. It's blood, it's the blood. Blood would come out. You don't need anything else to come out. Blood comes out. But what was blood is blood. You can look at blood. Blood is blood. It's not in an oifen of hafrasha, precious, like Chassidus would come out, you're like an angel. That's not what he was saying. That the blood is permeated with it. Right? That's the whole nekudah here. So Vayikach me'avnei hamakim, Yaakov is really trying to shift consciousness. That's the miracle here. Of course the stones became one. Once consciousness changes, everything changes. You're observing reality, it changes the reality. The real thing is inside. Inside, when you shift things inside, it changes the outside. The real story is the inner story. Could I come into a space where everything is fragmented, where naturally I want to go into fragmentation because of safety, and it's normal, and I surrender control with trust in the Ein Sof and Hashem, and allow me to go back into that space. So that all the rocks, instead of being fragmented, they become one. It's a different posture in life. It's a different posture in life. Your typhus? It's a different posture. It's a lot of work. So Vayikach me'avnei hamakim is not such a small thing that he did. As he's going to Charan, it evolves. The other things he did, it's a whole hemshech here. But it was a very deep avodah. Because Avanim, again, the Nekud Avanim are Isis, and there's many stones, because everything is different, and that's the way the world was created, and it's supposed to be that way. It's not a mistake. And as we explained what Isis are, on one hand, Isis convey the energy. On the other hand, Isis, Lagabi, the energy is what? Doimim. And that's exactly what our world is. On one hand, it conveys the chayas of Ein Sof, because without that we wouldn't live. On the other hand, it's so limited that you can call it Doimim Lagabi Ein Sof. But you have to realize how minuscule the energy is, even though for us it's everything. But Lagabi the Ein Sof, it's a very, very tiny constricted space, like Isis, which are Daimim. And because of the different combinations of Isis, that's why there's endless creatures on every single level, and everyone has different Isis. And it's half of a fella, how much diversity there is in the world. Even identical twins are not identical. There's no such a thing. They could be in the same placenta, and they are living in the same womb and the same nutrients, but they're different. And the whole world looks at them and they're identical, but they're not. There's always a different sequence in DNA. 99% of your DNA you share with a chimp. 50% of your DNA you share with a banana. When you look at a banana, you're looking at your first cousin, once removed. 50% of you is the banana. Like, don't think you're so superior to a banana. You're not. From your father's side, yeah. Your mother's side, I'm not going to get into that. Cucumber. Yeah, a cousin Emel Farukt. You know, we look, that's why there's a kinship between the whole world, there's an achtos. But yet, you don't consider yourself a banana, right? Because there's different sirufim. But what makes you human is just a different siruf, a little bit of a different siruf. It's not so dramatic. It is very dramatic because that's what makes you you. And even between two people, it's one of the neflayos habayre is that from the beginning of history, from the beginning of the first human being, there were never ever two people who were identical. How does that happen? Why can't, with all the flukes of nature, why can there ever be a fluke that two people should have the same footprints? Come on! The same handprint, same fingerprints. Never! That's a fluke! What's the answer? The answer is, B'shvili nivra ha'olam. That difference that you have from somebody else, that's the imprint of God. That's your ois. It's not my oisis. It has to be different because that's the whole nekuda. You need to be different. That's honoring God. It's honoring God's creation. And when you want to undo that, you want to say, why can't you be like your brother? Why can't you be like your sister? That's a very foolish question. It's a very undivine question. Yeah. It's like taking the DNA and saying, I'm going to make my own DNA. What? There's a respect for the flow. There's a flow that comes through these oisias. I'm not a camel, I'm not a donkey, I'm not a lion. At least some days. So there's a respect for the flow. The Der Haflaga wanted to undo diversity, right? They wanted everybody to be one. But it's superficial. You can't impose superficial unity on inherent diversity. Tafasta? You can't impose superficial unity on inherent diversity. You can't do that. It doesn't work. Marx wanted to do it. Lenin wanted to do it. Trotsky, Stalin. They created a Gehenna. For those of you who come from Russia or know about Russia. They created the biggest Gehenna in the name of equality. Started by the Der Haflaga. The Netziv writes, the Der Haflaga was a socialist endeavor. The Netziv lived in the 1800s. He passed away in the 1880s, so it was before the revolution in Russia in 1917. But the zeitgeist, the energy for socialism was already very much in the ear of demonstrations against the Tsar and all that. So he writes, what's the Der Haflaga? It's a beautiful thing. In theory, it's a beautiful thing. We're all one. But it's really a fake. It's a fake because it's superficial. It's not real oneness. It's not oneness created from diversity. You understand? It's a different one. It's oneness. I don't care about your diversity. I don't care about you. You're all going to surrender to me. And who's that me? It's going to be my individuality. Everybody is equal. In the animal farm, everybody is equal. But some are more equal than others. That's what Churchill said. That capitalism is the unequal distribution of success. And socialism is the equal distribution of misery. And that's exactly what the Soviet Union looked like. Everybody will be miserable besides the guy on the top because he is the cohesive unity. Whatever. I'm just showing you that this is called fake achtos. It's not maimer echad. That's fake achtos. You don't recognize the infinity in the other person. You crush their infinity and you all really need to surrender to me. So of course you rebel against that. So that's why we become so individualistic. We don't trust anybody. We go into individuation. I'm not going to trust. I put a wall. And you see it very much in relationships when people go into that space. And it's all to protect themselves. It's normal. It's called safety. We want to be safe. That's like what's the aseres hadibris of every creature that they have is protect your oisius. Be safe. A chicken knows it, and a dog knows it, and an ant knows it, and a worm knows it, and a mosquito knows it. They'll do anything to stay safe. You ever saw your mosquito stuck in your toilet and how much Mesiris Nefesh it has to get out? You ever see? Just pause, stop, look what it's doing. Of course we do, yeah. We try not to go into the toilet, yeah. We try to buy a building instead, but yeah. With toilets, yes. Let somebody else make the toilet. That's why we have you, to build the toilets. But it's very important. It makes sense. You have to respect that. So Yaakov vayikach me'avnei amakam. He takes the avonim. He takes the diverse stones. And brings them back to Marashoisav. What's Marashoisav? Marashoisav is the Yud, which is Chachma. Yeah. Showing that they're all connected to Chachma. In other words, I'm not afraid of your diversity. When you bring the Isis back to the source, it all begins with Yud Chachmei La. So now every Even is just a manifestation of another Nakuda. And that's real unity. Real unity is not superficial unity imposed on inherent diversity. Real unity is unity that is not afraid of the diversity, but the diversity can't be afraid of the unity. That's what Bittul is. You're not afraid of the unity. The Chevra Taif is the Inyan. So that's going to be in the second paragraph. He gets into that, how it was, what was the Chiddush of Yaakov, what is he really trying to accomplish, what does it bring to? Yeah. Okay. I want to wish everybody a beautiful day. Hatzlacha Rabbah. And Be'ezer Hashem will continue the Maimer Monday morning, 8 o'clock a.m. Bli Neder, Be'ezer Hashem Yisbarach. Shabbos, we have our regular shiurim. Shabbos is Tes Kislev. Sunday is Yud Kislev. Shabbos, yeah. Nachan Davenin, yeah. Be'ezer Hashem. Chayre, Tes Kislev is the Chagagul. Hemshech from last week that we... I heard you Fabreng last week with my son over here. He told me Fabreng with you. He said it was a good Fabrengen. Sometimes two people is the best Fabrengen. Yichidus. How are you? Tafasta, you got it? Okay.
Eden is in another dimension.
Eden, yeah. It's a different dimension.
Another dimension. And everything was... No, trying to...
You woke up when I said that when Yaakov looked at the stones that way, they became that way. That's where you woke up. I mentioned quantum mechanics. Yes, Tchias HaMesim.
So the
reptiles and that here too.
is ultimately the same. It's just different languages. The front end is also has to be coded.
Of course.
Back end also.
One for dummies and one for the brilliant people.
Now, what's the most
Code, yeah. That's all.
what's the most popular language today in the world? Computer language in the world?
Code.
What do you think?
I don't know.
English.
Of course.
Because with English and AI, you can program anything today. English is a program
Wow.
language.
Wow.
Or you can actually program in any language today, in Russian also, because the AI knows all the language.
Wow.
Follow that, just follow.
So that's the interesting thing, because it's all programmed.
Yeah.
It's all coding.
Everything. Everything is coding.
So if you think that you talk to AI, it's not a program. It's the biggest program. It's the largest program,
Right.
which involves 500 billion parameters.
The program of all the programs. Shir HaShirim. And it all begins with Yud. And it all begins with Chachmei La. Right? So that's the power. Chachmei La is the cosmic intelligence. Everybody is just feeding off cosmic intelligence. The moment you know that, you can actually feed, you can get much more. Like you open your channels. So that's really the idea. Huh? Yeah, and that's creativity. Creativity means you plug into there's a cosmic intelligence that we could channel. So I could either isolate my intelligence and my feelings, and then I become just a little, manifestation. I'm still a manifestation, but it's just so much smaller and more restrictive. And that's really what connection means between people. What's connection? Connection is either I could go into my own little manifestation and protect it and be anxious about it, or I open it up to the cosmic flow, and then wow, then you're channeling like everything.
We can connect through the API.
API, yeah.
Through the interfaces of each other.
Through the interface, right? Exactly. Yeah, beautiful.
That's what the UD is, an interface to Rabbi, right?
On a Shama Klolis, you say?
Yeah.
On a Shama Klolis.
The Rabbi operated.
Yeah. It's a place of Achdus. It's a place of. Verstanden?
Respecting the difference.
Huh?
Do all.
I had on the